artists. They all have facelifts, facelifts, boob jobs, and they're making more money off one record and one tour than they ever did on their measly little careers. Guy, the Go-Go's are coming back. Oh, I love them. Oh, I'm shameless. I'm shameless. Now, they made a lot of money. They're still going to make more money, you know, in their 50s. So, as I am 20 years away from my 50s, I figure for the next 20 years, I'm going to gear up for my 50s. So, I had an idea for the Fringe Festival 2 or 3 years down the line. The Phoenix Fringe Festival I perform at every year. I tend to either premiere the next thing I'm going to do or do my most radical thing I'm going to do so I don't get yelled at for doing it in church. And I had a plan for something I was going to do a couple years down the line. In fact, I had my record set up what I was going to do, which is finish High Risk Sexual Behavior, and then do Sinner Man, and then I had one more record that I was going to do, that's all planned out and ready to go, and then that would lead me to 2014, which would be the 10-year mark of this music ministry. And that year I wasn't going to do a new record. I was going to put together a compilation record, which I've already planned out, of all the songs, all the title tracks from all the records, plus some really cool unreleased versions of those songs, and spend a year singing all the old crap. I was really going to do it. I was like, now that technology has caught up with my ministry, or my ministry's caught up with technology, people can actually hear all these songs. That's why I'm doing all the movies of the old stuff and doing all this, because there's an arsenal of material here, and some of these songs are actually very good. And I thought about that tonight. Can I really say my songs are good? Well, if you see a baseball player and they can hit this many home runs in a row, and you know you can do it, can't you just say that? So I know I've written songs that are just as strong as anything I love. You know, I know Secrets is just as good as anything I've ever heard on the radio. I know that. I can't help it. I'm not saying that about everything, although I'm thinking it, but I know that there's an arsenal of material that never got its due. And I'd like to at least give it a chance to get its due while I'm alive. You know, I've had a good, and I think when I'm saying by its due, I'd like to be in a room performing it and get some applause. I think that's what I'm saying, because I've had countless downloads of a lot of this stuff. So that means people have it on their iPods, but what about me? I want attention. So that was my plan. And then after that, in 2015, I was going to do this next thing at the Fringe Festival. And I got before the Lord. I felt a real stirring. I felt like He was accelerating certain things. I felt like He was really talking to me about stuff. And I got before Him and He said, I think you should do that thing a little bit sooner. That you should take that step sooner. And it was, I mean, I had really mixed feelings about it. And I remembered that's how I felt about doing music ministry in the first place. And it became the most challenging and rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. And what the Lord spoke to me and said was this: do you know you have an arsenal of music sitting there? Do you know how much you've written? Do you know how much you've written that no one's heard yet? Do you know how much you have there? And I think about Michael Jackson, Paul McCartney, Ray Davies of the Kings. I mean, some amazing songwriters that I promise you their worst songs are better than anything we hear on the radio. You know, we do want to hear Michael Jackson stuff that was recorded that's never been released. There's probably some amazing stuff there that if it had $1 million to promote it would have been a classic. So it's just going to come and go like trivia when we finally get to hear it. But at least, you know, the people that want to hear it will get to hear it. But I don't want that in my life. I mean, that's what I have to look forward to, is that I'm going to work till I die, and I may never see the success I deserve for what I do, and I don't want that. But I have no choice. But the one thing I can do is always go back when I'm putting together new song cycles and say, is there something sitting here that I can do one more time in a new vein and at least let some fresh ears hear it, like Stand Around and Watch and Freddie's Dead for Heterosexual Behavior, because those are two of the best things I've ever done, and they should be like my song, my hits that I'm stuck doing in concert every time I perform. You know what I'm saying? That they should have that demand on them, because the content, I think, warrants it. Not because I'm so brilliant, but you know, I am a little brilliant. So I'm standing behind the songs. And so this is what the Lord talked to me about. He just kind of said, you know, you're going to have to know the difference between fact and ego when you work on what you're going to do next. You're going to have to separate the two, because you have an arsenal of songs. You have an arsenal of songs that you've done, stuff you've written you haven't done, ideas you haven't written yet, and songs that just make you crazy that you love, like I did Hero Worship at the Fringe Festival. I've been doing that forever. It's one of the best songs ever written, and it never got its day in court. And it was by the B-52s. It's on their first record, and it's like the only song on the record that wasn't a radio hit. It's amazing, and their version's better than mine. You know, it's amazing. And so, what I feel like the Lord told me to do was start over. Start over. I have been painstakingly piecing together everything I've done to get along with everything else I've done. How does the Monsters guy get along with the Not Unclean guy and sleep at night? Those two have a very hard time getting along, by the way. But when I did Lord, which was the first song off of Not Unclean, my very first record, and I did it on Leading Horses, it was a way to bind them together. And that was the first record where I started bringing back songs. And my favorite artist, Diamanda Gallas, does that. Includes older songs and new song cycles. And I saw that. I mean, that's very interesting. David Bowie has done that. To horrible effect, I might add. But I love David Bowie, so he's right and I'm wrong. But Diamanda's done it seamlessly. And I said, Bowie rocks, so if I do it a horrible effect, at least I can say I'm copying Bowie. But if I pull the songs forward, at least they still have some time in the sun. And what I felt like the Lord said is like, well, now you need to take it the next step. You need to do the next thing you do without reconciling it to anything or anyone. You just need to do it. I said, well, I've been doing everything with that reckless abandon. And he goes, no, you've been doing it with the attitude of I can do whatever I want and it doesn't really matter what people think, which is fine, and I highly recommend it, by the way. It's the only way you can get through a bad night. You know what I mean? But he was saying something different. He's saying, I want you to do something as if you haven't done it yet. I want you to do something like your Carole King, where you've done all this stuff, you've written for that persona of Paisley, that persona of Paisley, that persona of Paisley. You've done all this work, but you've never come out